Good afternoon. I hope you now understand the power of the Global Farmer Network and how amazing our farmers are. So thank you for hearing from Rotimi. Okay, this is the best way to end the first day that has been phenomenal at the World Food Prize. I have 3 farmers. Case will be coming up from Ukraine. There he is, hi. Sorry I didn't talk to you earlier today, I was in a meeting. But we have Patience from Nigeria, and Jose from Colombia, and then Case from Ukraine, sorry. I'm moving you around the world. They understand conflict better than anybody does. They live it every day. They understand how it impacts society, how it impacts their farms, their countries, and the children. So I'm not gonna talk anymore because I'm so excited for all of you. I'm gonna have Patience go first. So Patience, tell us about yourself, tell us about conflict and how it's affected your life.
So first of all, I'm really, really happy to be here. I was here 5 years ago, and I was in the audience, and I had to ask my question from the mic. So thank you to the World Food Prize Foundation. So yes, I'm a first-generation farmer who transited from fashion to farming. And I was basically an entrepreneur. I'd done, business all my life, so I was looking for another business. And when I started farming very quickly, I lost a lot of money, and I realized it wasn't quite what I thought it would be. But then the farming bug caught me, and I'm stuck. I'm still here, 17 years plus. But I farmed for about 8 years on a beautiful farm that was created by the Nigerian government in a local government called Kagarko, but Jere was my farming town, and I had a beautiful farm where I could do up to 500 hectares of corn with center pivots, and the water came from a dam. And so it was a beautiful place. And we were happy, and we had formed all the alliances and all the neighbors and everything. But then, conflict, like Rotimi said, exists, and we talk about wars, and Ukraine, Keys is living a war today, but when the enemy is unknown, that's the worst one, right? So when you're in a war, but it's not a wartime. And so we found very quickly that we were dodging bandits every day. And people were getting kidnapped, and people were getting killed. And our families were getting worried because they thought we were irresponsible going to those farms. And so eventually, I remember when I got the Kleckner Award, and it was presented to me at FAO, the Nigerian ambassador to the FAO was intrigued that I was farming in Jere, because it's a notorious part of Nigeria. But eventually I had to leave my farm. So I left everything that I was used to and comfortable with, and I moved. And I went to start over again about 3 years ago, and we had to, at this point, lease from the Nigerian army because they were the largest land holders in Nigeria, and then it was safer. And so every day, you see these conflicts. And I was fortunate because I had the resources to start over. But many farmers have nothing. So when you hear the IDP camps and the things, they leave their homes and they flee for their lives. And so what Rotimi was showing today is something that we live every day, and we see it every day, and we hear about it every day. And so it's really the fact that these conflicts exist. And so for us, if when we talk about conflict in Nigeria, you're talking about Boko Haram and so on and so forth, ISIS, West Africa, depending on where you are. But then when you deal with the unknown, faceless bandits that nobody knows who they are, and they come into the village and they kill everyone, that's the one that is the worst to deal with.
Thank you. Case. You're back with us this year. You were with us last year. He is not here with us because he has ballistic missiles flying over his house. He sent a WhatsApp video to the entire Global Farmer Network organization the other day, and it had pictures of the missiles going over his house. So he is staying safe and staying with his farm. So can you tell us, we're all familiar with the Ukraine, what's going on in Ukraine, but give us an update of what are you seeing now? What do you need now since this has gone on for so long?
Well, after listening to the stories of Nigeria, I'm happy to live in Ukraine. Because we have an enemy which we can see and which we all know is very bad. It's the Russians. So that's a clear enemy, and Ukraine is united to fight it. And Ukraine has a lot of support from the rest of the world. Yeah, but it is difficult. But for us personally, I mean, we are still alive. We are healthy. So we are in the middle of Ukraine, halfway Kiev, Odessa. So very lucky. And Ukraine, I mean, the title of this session is recovering, but Ukraine is not recovering yet. Russia is still trying to destroy it. But as I said, I'm lucky, but the farmers in the east and the south of Ukraine, they have much more misery to go through. They are much more hardship. For example, last week, a farmer who was in a deoccupied area of Ukraine, he drove on a mine with his tractor and he was killed. Another friend of mine who's in the south of Ukraine, also a member of a global farmer network, Andrei, he has cows killed in his dairy farm because of rockets hitting the farm. And his employees are leaving the farm because the same rockets, they kill the children of his employees. So, and that's still happening. That's still going on a daily basis. And that's hard to talk about it, but still compared to them, I'm very lucky, And I wrote some things down here. In a lot of these farms, they can't work all of their fields, or they can't work most of their fields, especially in deoccupied territories, because their fields are still mined, or there's still lots of unexploded shells in their fields. So they're struggling to survive, and they are demining, trying to demine themselves. They're going in there with metal detectors, but there's also, farmers are very creative. So they are, from old tractors, they are building remote-controlled demining equipment. And they sit in their telehandler on the side of the field on a high level with a remote control, and an old Soviet-style tractor is driving across the field with some rollers in front, and if it hits a mine, it explodes. But luckily, then it doesn't kill anybody. And that's still happening. And I've been living in Ukraine now for more than 20 years, and I've seen the progress Ukraine went through, the positive progress, but it takes years, it takes generations, for a country like Ukraine, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, to become, let's say, a civilized country, But it was going in the right direction. And we had the Orange Revolution in 2003, 2004. And ever since, we've had freedom of speech and free press. And a whole generation grew up with this freedom. And they are now defending their country, which Russia is trying to destroy. But we need to keep on defending. Russia is actually achieving the opposite by attacking Ukraine. Ukraine has become even. The Ukrainians have come closer together in defending the country and be a unity. And we need, as a country, we need the support of the whole world, to defend against the Russians. And unfortunately, what we need is weapons, long-range weapons, airplanes, to chase the Russians out. And that's the only sustainable solution for Ukraine to become a free country again, and so Ukrainian farmers can farm for a free world. And if Ukraine doesn't win, then the authoritarian regimes of this world and the dictators of this world will take that as an example, and then we're going to live through a very few unpleasant decades in the near future. So, yeah, we need the support from the rest of the world, and unfortunately, it's with weapons. I don't like to say this in an audience like this, but that's unfortunately the only way to solve this, so farmers can farm again.
Thank you. It's always tough to hear both of you, and we got to talk yesterday for a long time, Jose and I, and the stories you told moved you, but moved all of us sitting around. So please share your story with us.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Jose Luis Gonzalez. I'm from Colombia. I'm actually a civil engineer, and I started farming by force because of the violence in my country. I survived 2 shootings, 2 bombings, and 1 try of kidnapping. And my wife, decided that was enough, so I have to move to something else. It's difficult sometimes to talk about something that happened in the past that actually hurts you personally, not someone that is close to you. And learning that conflict is going to be a teacher, but it's not a good teacher, is something that I would actually change the mindset that you have. I want to talk about something beforehand, and is that I made the decision to go farming because I don't want the people to go through the stuff that I already saw, the stuff that I already live. And as I say, as a civil engineer, I have to move to do something that I don't even know how to do. I got surrounded by people that actually know how to farm and teach me how to farm. And I get involved with my family in this business. And we decided to do something for the communities that surround us, because we don't want no one to live what we actually went through. One of the attacks that I got involved in was developed by the FARC, and I just don't want people to go through that kind of stuff. And with my family, actually, we were thinking what we can do to help the people around the farms that we have, and what we can do to actually mitigate the damage that the violence is doing, especially in the area where we work in Colombia, because the government is just silent about whatever we do. All the people that get involved in the conflict has the same modus operandi, and is they take the children. They teach them how to fight at young ages, like 9, 10 years old. They teach them how to carry a weapon. So we decided to make something different, and we decided that we have to teach those children, the father of those children, how to work the land, how to be a farmer, how to actually get involved in something that they are going to get them out of that vicious circle that is violence, that is war, that is everything that destroys the humanity in reality. I understand the things that Nigeria is going through, the stuff that kids in Ukraine is going through, because I already lived some of that stuff. I survived bombings when I was 6, 7 years old, because Pablo Escobar decided to bomb the cities. And we live in fear. We have to hide in our own homes. It was a mess. So I just don't want children to go through that. I don't want children to go with a feeling of a wasted childhood, because that's an important part. So we decided to, as I said, that the best way to save our community, the people that surround us, is teach them how to farm, teach those children how to farm. And so far it's been good, I have to say. I've been working with some teenagers and some young professionals on agriculture, and I teach them, I let them go wild on our farm. And the result is that a lot of those people that had the violence just next to them, next from their homes, they just don't want to go there. They left the weapons at home because they want to feel safe, but they are now changing all those weapons for actually farming tools. And that's actually amazing, to change the mindset of the people just because they want not to get involved in something that is a vicious circle that is going to destroy them. More or less is that.
Thank you. So the four of us and about 70 more farmers from the Global Farmer Network were in Argentina together last February. And it was great to hear all of you speak and talk about what you were going through. So I'd like to comment on what you've learned, for each of you to comment with each other. What have you learned from each other and from your stories of struggle? I mean, it's hard, I think, for all of us to hear Case saying, well, we don't have it that bad in the Ukraine compared to Nigeria, or we don't have it that bad in Nigeria compared to Colombia, or back and forth. And I think I told you last night I wanted you to personalize.
Yes.
Because I want it, what we deal with every day, I want it to be real. So can you talk to that and how you've, depended on each other and what you've learned?
I think that one of I say always everywhere I go that I'm blessed to have become a member of the Global Farmer Network all these years. And because so as a farmer, I've been able to succeed because I've had other farmers hold my hand through it, right? So I have challenges. I said this morning at a session, I call a farmer in India, he tells me, do this, do this, do this, my bananas are falling down or something. But I think that one of the things that really stands out to us when we share our stories is you immediately realize that it's not, yours isn't the worst case, right? Because there's always somebody else that has this really huge challenge. So, I mean, we're saying, okay, they're bandits, and then I can move to another farm. But Case has missiles flying over his head, and so even if mine is an unknown enemy, this is a far fiercer force that's coming. So I think one of the major things that we've learned is that we've, first of all, been able to see the world in a broader view. So I've seen that from my small farm in Nigeria, I can actually someday be that big farmer, like whoever else. But more importantly, I've been able to get the knowledge that I need, which is priceless, right? So I've been able to walk through the process of farming, which to a large extent where I come from is like groping in the dark. But I've been able to get people to show me clearly that this is how we charted this path, and it wasn't rocket science, right? And be able to bring that down to my level. And I think that's really important when you come out of conflict or you're going through conflict. Because these farmers who are displaced or who lose everything, we have really, really bad farming systems in Nigeria and in many parts of Africa. And if farmers can actually be productive, it means that even when you do go through conflict or there's violence or there's anything else, that the farmers can really build back better afterwards. Because that's, they have that strength and that power. So I think that's one of the really strong things for me about the network, right? The ability to understand complex things made simple, because I have people who are living it and I'm walking in someone else's shoes, and it's easier.
Case, what would you have to say?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Patience says. You learn from each other. And for example, the Argentinians, they are very passionate about no-till. They can't stop talking no-till. So that's and if you have a question or if you have an issue, as Patience says, you send it in the WhatsApp group, and from all kinds of different farmers, you get advice and you get pictures how they do it, and you can try to implement those things on your own farm. And it's not your neighbor or your next door neighbor. It's from farmers all over the world, from different climate zones, and you can try to pick the best from everyone and try to implement it on your own farm. So that's one important thing, and another important thing is that I think that farmers are very proud of their products. You know, and back in February, Jose brought me a very nice pack of Colombian coffee. You know, and he was very proud of it, and we drank it with taste. So you know, and that's what we produce. You know, we produce food, and we are proud of it. And that's the feeling I have with all these farmers of the global network. They're all trying to feed the world, you know, and they're proud of it. So no, we're all proud to be farmers.
Okay.
And not, as you said, not just farmers.
Yes, thank you. I do not like when farmers introduce themselves as, I'm just a farmer, because they are experts. So I am a farmer.
Yes, I can agree more with that all the farmers have said, and we have to be proud, as you said. And what I learned from everyone is that actually they have to be proud of what I do, because we have the misconception that actually the farmer is a poor guy. So it's not that true. But there is something that I found very, very nice that I learned, and it was taught me by Shakar. I don't know if someone remember him. From India, and he made me realize that if I want to help the community that surrounds me, I can be the manager of a lot of people that have small farms and teach them how to be a good farmer. And that's what I'm actually been doing right now with the watermelon and lime project, so I can help them and teach them how to be good. And all the idea actually appeared to me back when I met everyone in the Global Farmer Network, and I joined in Mexico in 2019, it was, I think what it is. And that idea kept growing and growing, and when I finally was able to make it happen, I met Kes, and Kes told me about the stories that he had, and we got a little bit in common about it was saddened that it was about war, but I learned that his point of view farming, it wasn't that far from mine, and the knowledge that I get from every person that I talk about farming in the Global Farmer Network lead me to a project that actually want to get involved with more and more and more people and bring them out of war, because that is the most important part for me.
Thank you. So my grandfather said, you cannot build peace on empty stomachs, and obviously we are living that here. If you see recent events that have been happening in the past few weeks, we see how food can be weaponized. Yep. And children are utilized in that. And coming out of conflict, because we are going to get you all out of conflict. We're all here to support that, and we do believe peace can come through agriculture, and it's a powerful tool. What can we do for you to make it better? Or any advice that you have learned that we need to understand so we can be there to help you rebuild?
I think this is a very big first step. Yeah. Having farmers here is a massive step, right? So because farmers need a place at the table. Listening to farmers, tailoring what farmers need, the solutions need to really be tailored to what farmers need. And I find that's also one of the problems that I find that has made us not come as far as we should in my country. A lot of the solutions is copy and paste, right? You take big tractors to Nigeria, you think this is going to work. And when you do come to the reality of it, is that the fields are not even cleared. There's stumps everywhere and the tractors can't move. But if you ask the farmer, what do you need? He would tell you that I need a small equipment that I can maneuver through wherever I'm working, and that would be a productive solution. So having farmers' voices on platforms like this, and then being able to have an input in not even only policy, but even what companies provide as solutions is so, so key. Because then you can actually help us to get what we need. So everyone, just give farmers a little room, welcome us more, and help us through the challenge of growing food. It's a lot of pressure and it's difficult. I tell people that farming is by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And, and anything you can do to make it better is welcome.
Well, first of all, Patience has a good point is that we need to tailor what we want as farmers. Every country has its own needs. And for example, I can talk about most of Latin America because we share kind of the same issues. And the main thing I think, is that we need education. We need to form people from the ground to be a tall tree. And that's why I always talk about how to get involved with children, how to get involved with teenagers, how to teach them how to farm, because I think that the most important thing that people can do at least for Colombia, is teach them how to really farm, because we are not really farmers. We've been working the fields, but we are not actually farmers. We need to be more concerned that we need to learn from other countries that actually have the technology, actually have the knowledge, and we have to just, as Patience said, copy-paste. But that's the reason that I want to talk about, the main thing I want to talk about. And is that we, as like most of the people in Latin America, we need the knowledge. We need the support from people that actually want to teach us how to farm, how to grow, whatever they can do. And with that, we probably get involved with like farming schools or farming universities for the children and the teenagers to get involved and actually see that farming is a good way to get out of poverty, to have a noble and dignity in this world, and that you can actually have money with farming, and that's very important.
Case, what do you have to share with us? Oh, I can't hear you, or we cannot hear you.
Hello?
There we go. You're back.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, what Ukraine needs is all the pressure from the whole world on Russia to stop, as you said, weaponizing food. You know, if you, last year, commodity prices, when Russia started the war on Ukraine, the commodity prices went through the roof, and in a lot of poor countries, they were really suffering from this, you know, and hunger really increased in those countries. You know, and that's a way of Russia to put pressure on those countries to support them. You know, so we need the pressure the other way around on Russia to stop them weaponizing food. That's the most important for Ukraine. For now, commodity prices are relatively low, but sooner or later there will be a drought somewhere in the world, you know, and then the buffer of Ukrainian production is kind of taken out of the world trade, and then commodity price is going to surge again, and a lot of people again will suffer from this. So, yeah, we need all the pressure on Russia for them to stop this war. As soon as they stop shooting, you know, the war is over, and Ukraine is a free country again. And another thing in general, I mean, also what I read in the Global Farmer Network WhatsApp group, in many countries there's a lot of bureaucracy, you know, and you have to have clear and straight rules, of course. You know, you have to take care of the environment, but things are so much bureaucratized, and those rules are made, and those bureaucracy is made by people who don't understand farming. So as I said last year, you know, I think you need more farmers in government, but you need to make clear rules for farmers, you know, and give the farmers to act freely within those rules. And and stop the bureaucracy.
Will you just give us an update on how is getting your food, getting the wheat and everything, exporting it out? Is that changing? Is that getting better? Is it still being held up in Poland? What is going on right now?
So to give a little background, 20 years ago when I started farming here, Ukraine was producing around 20 million tons of grain and oilseeds per year. And the year before the war started, Ukraine was producing over 100 million tons. So within 20 years, we five-folded our production. And with this, and 80% of this is exported through the Black Sea. So with this increase of production, the logistics capacity in the Black Sea and on the export capacity grew. And now the Black Sea is more or less closed by the Russians for export of Ukrainian grain. There's some alternative routes by train and by truck through Poland and Romania, and partly through the Danube River, which is on the border with Ukraine and Romania. But it's by far not enough. We still need to export 30 million tons through the Black Sea ports. It is improving a little bit, but it is going very, very slowly, and it has a huge effect on prices. We are getting between $70 and $80 per ton paid less for our produce compared to farmers in Romania, for example, or in other parts of the world. So for our company this year, that cost us around $5 million. And last year we had the same loss of income. So it is maybe little by little improving, but not fast enough, and farmers all over Ukraine are suffering big time for this, and they're saving on fertilizers, they're saving on investments, and that has an effect on future profits as well and future sustainability. So the long-term effects of this, they are still going to happen, and it's for the worse, it's not for the better.
Thank you. So we're in front of a room with people from governments, people from corporations, we have NGOs, we have, you name it, they're in the room. You all are experiencing some of the hardest parts of farming. We have ballistic missiles flying over your farm. We talked last night about not driving at night. You can't go to your farm, you cannot come back. She has been pulled over, horror stories of what has happened to you. You have been desensitized because of bombing, and you don't want any children to ever grow up that way. What advice can you give everyone in this room of how we can stop this, how we can change where this chaos comes from, and what we can all do together to improve your situations?
Okay.
Don't.
That's a big question.
I know, I keep making you.
But I think as I said, first knowledge. We have to teach people what actually need to be done on the field. But probably what the most important is we have to go back a little bit more. I mean, we have to teach people the roots of what a good family foundation is, because it gets involved around with family farming. And I think the main idea or what people can do to help not only Colombia, probably not only Nigeria, and probably Ukraine, we can use that help too. But all the countries that need to develop is bring the knowledge, bring the help that actually needs to be done, and make something that is tailor-made for every country, because we have different necessities. But the main idea, I think, is that we have to get actually involved with the farmers. We have to teach them the technology that we have right now, how to use it, and give them the dignity that we actually lost because they think that we are poor. So involved in all that, I can say that all it gets around knowledge and teaching how to do stuff.
My grandfather would love that you talked about education. I just wanted to tell you that. Patience, what about you?
Okay, so for me, because in the room there's a diverse group of people, I would say change the channels.
Good.
And I say that because there's a lot of money that goes into countries in Africa, Nigeria, that's supposed to be changing our food systems. And for me, really, if you ask yourself, are those systems changing? Have they changed? Has anything improved? So that very quickly tells you that there's something wrong, right? So change the channels. And I think that one of the things that made me, so I'm a regional lead for Africa for the Global Farmer Network, and it was because of my passion for action, right? So really just because, you know, we come to all the conferences and people talk about a lot of things and we go back home and nothing changes. So just how do we really change things? And I see the value because when I tell people about what farming is in Nigeria, because I live it every day, it's because I've experienced it. Then I can tell you, look, these are the problems. We plant and we don't get the yields. Why? And then every time you try something new and you try something new and you add something, and I know that these are the solutions, but then when you give me a solution that is up in the air, it doesn't bring real change. So I think it's time for everyone to really ask themselves, you know, if you're doing something and it's not changing, why do you keep doing it? You know, so I think the reality really is, which is why we keep saying ask the farmer, but you know, sometimes it sounds like you're just being, you know, but ask the farmer, you know, then you can also then look, or ask the people on the ground, what do they experience and how can you really bring change? So for me, I would just say change the channels, change the way that, you know, things are being done, and hopefully that way we can really bring change.
And I promise you, she has ideas of how you should change them. So please find her later if you would like to know. Case, what about you?
It's a big question, as Jose said, and you know, education is very important. And as Patient said, change the channels. You know, you have to reach the middle size and the small farmers, you know, and not go through all the big corporations and the big huge industrial farms. You know, you have to reach the farmers who live in the society, who live where they farm, who live in the environment, who breathe the environment where they farm. You know, you have to reach those people, and you have to support. You have to support those people. But you know, we haven't had such an outbreak of violence here in Ukraine then since the Second World War. You know, and I would have never thought I would experience something like this. But we are living it every day. You know, we have 350 employees, 40 of them in the army, and 4 of them have died already. So, and I would have never thought to experience something like this, you know. And if you don't, I mean, I think most of the people in the room, they haven't experienced this, and they probably won't experience this. So then it's very difficult to comprehend. It's very difficult to understand. It's, let alone feel it, you know. So I don't know, you know, what to say. I don't wish you to feel all this kind of stuff, you know. But if you don't feel it, it's hard to imagine, and then it's hard to take action. So, yeah, maybe visit countries like Nigeria, Ukraine, you know, like Colombia, to experience it, and then bring it back home to your countries where it's safe, you know, and then act on it, you know, act on that feeling, to prevent it for the future, you know, because, yeah, people forget what peace is, you know, and you have to work for peace every day. So, yeah, you shouldn't forget that.
Thank you. I want to thank all 3 of you. Thank you, Case, for staying up late for us today. It has been such an honor to have you all. Everyone has known I've been talking about farmer panels for a year now. So it has been such an honor to share this afternoon, to have a Take It to the Farmer afternoon. Although we have talked about topics that are just hard to hear about what you're experiencing, there is reason to be optimistic. These farmers prove that they want to see a difference. They want to make it better for their countries and for everyone. So believe in them, support them. One of the greatest ways you can do that, come talk to the Global Farmer Network. These are rock stars. You were just with the Pope in Rome. In case you've been to the EU, I got to run around with you at the US Capitol, and every senator was coming out to talk to you about, and House representatives, what you needed. And I know you do the same. So these are people advocating on behalf of others to solve these huge problems. So reach out to them. Let them speak to your companies. Let them speak to your governments. Let them speak to organizations so people understand that farmers are at the forefront. We can build peace through agriculture. So thank you for allowing us to share the day with you. And let's give a hand to the farmers.